I have posted several shorts showing how to draw a rose. We drew several different styles and different levels of difficulty, and now it's time to progress to painting it. Since painting leaves is my favorite subject, we're going to start there. The idea here was to apply as many techniques as I can come up with. Each leaf will be saturated with paint. Now I am using very transparent green. I'll put all the details below. And then I'm dropping in different colors just to give myself some variety. So I am going into some of the oranges and reds as well, because those colors will also appear in the branch itself. Now here I'm putting in the veining in that color, and then I can go over the whole thing with the green. Because it's transparent green, it will show beautifully. Now this particular leaf is going to be behind the others, and right away I'm turning to a much darker color because I know that will be tucked in and you won't see as much light on it. Now I noticed that when I zoomed in here that everything looks rather messy, unfinished, and that's because it is. I'm painting everything with really transparent greens, and that allows me the chance to go over the whole thing again in the end and clean up the edges, number one, and also put another glaze on top of the whole thing that will even out all of the textures. And here I'm just dragging a clean brush over the leaf to create a bit of a white vein. I tucked this little leaf into the background, so I will not put too much detail onto it. It will also be lighter in color. Let's move on to the little receptacle that will house the bud. I'm using Fabriano 1264 paper, so it's nothing fancy, but you'll just find that all the edges still need to be touched up in the very end. When painting the little bud, start off very light in terms of saturation as well. Time to paint the actual flower. So I'll start by painting the center itself. Because I plan to use the wet on wet technique, it's really important to establish the amount of water that I do need to place down first before I can pop in the contrast color. This took a bit of dabbing and adjustment. So one of the better things I should have done is paint another petal onto a scrap piece of paper and play with the content of water, and then dry the whole thing and see how it will look when it's completely dry. So the goal here is to paint each petal separately, put the darkest part towards the center, and then just blend it out or let it develop into the lighter color at the outside of the petal. Here I started with much too much water and the whole thing just became one big blob. So it's just a matter of lifting some of it just to make sure that the lighter part is always on the outside. Now it's just a matter of repeating that process. Each petal will be painted separately. I will dry it between each one, and then I will ensure that none of them will bleed into one another. I realize that this is a matter of taste, but I find that when there is too much contrast between the colors that are on the inside of the petal versus the outside, the rose tends to look quite fake. Of course, it's all a fine balance, and it all depends on your style. Another way to paint it is to put a line around the outside of the petal, then grab a clean, moist brush and just feather that out towards the edge. It gives you a slightly different feel. I find that it's a little bit more of a stark contrast, but there's less need to control water. So you can definitely try different ways of doing it. As long as you're drying everything in between the petals, I think you'll do quite well. When it comes to adding the final touches, just make sure that those fine little lines do follow the contour of the actual petal, and that you concentrate most of it towards the center again and feather it out toward the outside. Okay, time to speed this up as it is rather repetitive. However, each petal does deserve some really good attention, so it's okay to fuss at this point because this is what makes it wonderful. With these quick little reels and tutorials, we have just all learned to rush through things, and part of what makes watercolor so special is our ability to slow down, to just eliminate everything else from our mind and just concentrate on painting. What started as a little doodle on a sticky note has now turned into a lovely little flower, and I hope that you will give this a try. And as always, I would love to hear from you if you do.